Do you relate well to being spiritual and not religious? Are you looking to transform your life to have greater purpose and experience more joy and abundance? If you are, you've come to the right place. Welcome. I'm Neil Pinkman, the spiritual director for the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. Over the past 2 decades, our open and affirming, diverse community has helped countless people in the same way. Enjoy watching. If you like what you see, check us out at CSLNJ.org.
Oh, yes. Love, joy, peace, faith. This and so much more we send over the mountain into the all of the all, into law. Yes, 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 yes. Into that interconnected, omnipresent ionosphere, that electromagnetic whole within the whole. Fully embracing all that is, all that we are, all of which we are a part of. Yes, bless you, bless us all, for we are blessed. As we take that blessing deep within us, knowing that each one of us is blessed, knowing that each one of us has the power of that blessing, knowing that we are an individualized creation of that blessedness. We fully embrace it. We fully embrace the words that are spoken here today, the music that is sung here today, performed. And we bless the messages that we hear. I bless the words that are spoken. I bless the speaker. I bless the musicians. I bless the technology that brings this message outside of these walls. I bless those that operate the technology. I bless all of us present, all of us listening, every ear that hears these words of music. I bless the feeling that we get from hearing these words. I bless all of creation and all that we create through this celebration. And I call it so very, very good. Sending us over the mountain and into law. Joy. I send my joy over the mountains. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me power. I send my power over the mountain. I send my power over the sea. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me love. I send my love over the mountain. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. And it returns to me. And it returns to me.
Thank you, that was beautiful. So I have our December affirmation. You can read along with me. I am walking, talking evidence of love. Every breath I breathe, every thought I think, every exchange I have is based on and steeped in love, because I am the place where love resides. Love is the power that creates through me in all moments, and because it is love, it can only create love. I respond with love now and always, and so it is. And now we'll have, our community greeting. So, they're in Zoom land. You can unmute yourselves and say good morning to each other. And here in the room, we can unmute and say good morning to each other.
All right, so we're going to do our reading remarkably is from the textbook again. So yes, our textbook known as The Science of Mind, and it's on page 75. Strangely enough, it's called The Science of Mind. Okay. Let us then approach the science of mind with awe, but not with fear, with a truly humble spirit, but not with any sense that we are unworthy, and certainly with no superstition. Let us approach it normally, happily, willing to accept it, glad to experiment with it, believing that as a result of our efforts, we shall derive this great good, a better understanding of the natural laws of life as they apply to the individual and his relationship to the universal scheme of things. The science of mind, then, is a study of life and the nature of laws and thought, the conception that we live in a spiritual universe, that God is in, through, around, and for us. There is nothing supernatural anywhere on any plane, that which today seems to us as supernatural, after it is understood that will be found spontaneously natural. We say that there is a universal mind, but no one ever saw it. We say God is spirit, but no one ever saw God. The Bible says, no man hath seen God at any time, only the Son he hath revealed him. To express this idea in our language, no one has seen cause, because we see an effect. We know there must be a cause. Nothing is more evident than the fact that we live, and since we live, we must have life. And since we have life, there must be life. The only proof we have of mind is that we think. The eternal principle is forever hidden. And it's interesting, I did not look at this reading before now, but it caught my attention that it's that we don't look at this with any sense of unworthiness, because that kind of ties into a little bit about what I'm going to talk about in our power talk this morning. If you've been with us all month, we've been focusing on the idea of love as our theme. But there's an aspect of love that I don't think has yet been addressed. And there's a song that was written by Linda Creed. It was recorded by George Benson in 1977, but perhaps made more famous by Whitney Houston in 1995. And its chorus says, "The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all." I never realized just how profound and how accurate those words were until I started this spiritual path, delving deeper into the spiritual journey. Nor did I realize how deeper I need to love myself. Most of us are taught from an early age to be humble, not to be too proud of ourselves, and certainly not to be boastful. Good people don't do that. We were taught to share our toys as children, even when we didn't want to. We were taught to give selflessly, and to never be selfish. And some of us even grew up in religions that taught us that we were born sinners and could never be worthy of the kingdom of heaven unless we begged forgiveness. The intention behind these lessons were good. They were meant to prevent us from becoming assholes. But there was a negative side effect to these lessons. It taught many of us to embrace a sense of less than. It diminished our sense of self-worth, our self-confidence, and our ability to truly love ourselves. So why is self-love the greatest love of all? In this teaching, we know that there is only one. One divine mind, one divine consciousness, one divine intelligence. And if we can't fully love ourselves, the I am of the one, we cannot truly love the one, nor can we fully love the another of the one. Without self-love, full, true, complete self-love, we can never fully embrace our own divinity. Without fully embracing our own divinity, we can study spiritual love. We can understand it intellectually. We can even teach it, but we can never truly live it. We can never truly use it, or at least use it the way we want to. We can treat over and over again for the same things, but our lack of self-love will yield self-doubt that creates the consciousness of unworthiness and the thought that we can never be God, and the underlying belief that we can never have what we want. Abraham Hicks once said, "Sometimes people say, Abraham, it seems like you teach selfishness." And we say, we really do. Because selfishness, let's define it, selfishness means vibrational alignment with self. That's with a capital S. And in order to understand that, you got to know who self really is. Self is source. Self is pure positive energy. Self is worthy. Self is clear-minded. Self is healthy. Self is full of vitality. Self is eager about life. And when you are willing to be selfish, which means you are willing to mimic the vibration of self, which means you are willing to release the thoughts that hold you apart from that, and practice the thoughts that cause you alignment with that, which simply means you're selfish enough to care how you feel. That's when they call it selfish. So if we are to truly love ourselves, does that mean we need to put ourselves above the needs of others? I say absolutely. Because there's no way that we can truly take care of others if we don't take care of ourselves first. And so many times I've fallen into the trap of overextending myself in order to take care of somebody else to the point of detriment to myself. And that's not self-love. So many times I've given more than I should have. And that again is not self-love. But when we can give to ourselves first and take care of ourselves first, we may find that we have even more to give to others. I'm not saying don't tithe first, that's a different story. I'm saying don't overextend yourself. I mean, there is a reason though why on airplanes they say that when the oxygen masks drop, cover yourself first and then take care of others, children. You've got to take care of yourself first. Self-love also includes taking care of your body temple, eating the right foods, getting enough exercise and sleep, avoiding unhealthy habits. My doctor has always guided me to stay healthy so I can dance at my grandchildren's wedding. Being that my younger son is 40 years younger than me, I don't know how possible that is, but I'm going to get my best shot. So if you're like me, and we're taught at an early age that you are imperfect, that you're not worthy, and that are anything less than a true individualized incarnation of the one divine source, and that thought may be running in the background, I'm going to encourage you to take some time, stare into the mirror, look deep into your eyes, and repeat the words of my good friend, spiritual teacher, the actress Dee Wallace. We don't know who she is, or I remember her from BET. She played a lot of Cujo and gazillion other movies and TV shows. But she has a weekly podcast in which she closes with the words, I love myself. I love me, and I love me even more, because I know that's what it's all about. And so it is.
And
so it is.
all right. Let me get myself together. And here we go. Joke. If you know the answer to this, don't yell it out. Okay? What do you call a Christmas wreath made out of $100 bills? An Aretha Franklin. I thought that was funny. A guy said to God, God, is it true that to you a billion years is like a second? God said, yes, it is. And the guy said, God, is it true to you that $1 billion is like a penny? And God said, yes, it is. And the guy said, God, can I have a penny? And God said, sure, just a second. That's a slow sink. Okay, here we go. I'm going to say at the beginning of this, by the way, that I'm going to mention 2 books, and you don't have to worry about what is the name of that book again, what is the name of that book again. If you're at home, Purple's going to put the names of the 2 books in the chat, and if you're here, you can just come up and see what the book is. So a lot of times people stop listening and they're like, what's the name of that book again that he's talking about? All right, so let's talk about this. The description for the talk today is radical love, beyond traditional ideas of romantic and familiar love, expanding to a more transformative, expansive, and inclusive vision of love. It is about embracing a deep sense of empathy and compassion. Radical love calls for love as an active force that transcends the status quo and drives social, political, and personal change in 20 minutes. So we're going to talk about, I can't do all of that. How can you do all of that in 20 minutes? You just can't do that. So I'm going to just focus on one aspect of radical love, and that is the radical love of living authentically. Okay? It ties into what Brian was talking about in his wonderful power talk. It's that radical idea of living authentically and the radical notion that no other life that you could live could make you happier than the life you are living right now. That's pretty radical to think, because we have a long list of things that we would love to change about our life, but no other life that you could live will make you happier than the life you are living right now. Now, right now, we're in that weird in-between, like in between Christmas and New Year's, those days in between. It's the in-between time, right? Our offices are closed. A lot of people are closed. If you work retail, people return things or say. I mean, it's that in-between time. It's a little bit like that notion of the Tibetan Buddhist idea of the bardo. The bardo is that moment between death, or moment between life and death. That moment. And they teach that in that moment, eternity can be found. That's a pretty heady thing to think about if you really just spend time thinking about it. There's a wonderful novel called Abraham Lincoln and the Bardo. I think it's called George Sanders. Anyway, wonderful concept to really think about. I'm going to talk about it in terms of another book, a book called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Has anybody here read this? It's been a massive bestseller for about 3 or 4 years now. And it's terrific. I'm not going to give away everything. I'm not going to give away the ending, but I am going to talk about it. So you're going to become very aware of this book. And don't you just love good books? Like when you sink into a really great novel. That's what this is. This is a great novel, and it's just filled with all these great ideas. And the premise of the novel itself is about choices. And it's about this woman who goes into that bardo, that space between life and death. And in that space between life and death, she falls into a library. And the library is infinite, and it's filled with an infinite number of books. Why is it filled with an infinite number of books? Each book represents a life as she could have lived in. And it gets very philosophical because every single choice you make creates a whole new set of books because it creates an entire new set of possibilities. And listen to this. This is so great. By the way, I don't know if you can see, but I have my copy is just highlighted, and I've got Post-it notes. Listen to this. Matt Haig writes in this. So this woman is in this library, and there's a librarian. The librarian says, every life contains millions of decisions, some big, some small. But every time one decision is taken over another, the outcomes of your life differ. An irreversible variation occurs, which in turn leads to further variations. These books in this midnight library are all portals to the lives you could have been living. You have as many lives as you have possibilities. There are lives where you make different choices, and those choices lead to different outcomes. If you had done just one thing differently, you would have a different life story. And that's what the book is about. We make choices, and we make choices based on so many things. We talked about that in the 4 agreements, that whole domestication that we learn and how we make a lot of the choices in our life unconsciously. We're not consciously making those choices. Sometimes that's good. You don't need to consciously think to yourself, stop and look both ways. That's a choice that we just kind of end up doing because of experience and by rote. But that's not true of most of the experiences, or many of the experiences, where we turn them off, we turn off our critical thinking, or we just trust somebody else, or we just do a decision based on what we've always done, because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and it's easier to just keep doing what you've been doing than to discover something new, et cetera, et cetera. So we make choices on a lot of things. But here we are, in this bardo of the year, this in-between Christmas and New Year's, headed towards New Year's. And New Year's is the moment when many of us make resolutions, right? And resolutions are those choices that we make that are supposed to be about creating a new life. One decision can create an entire new possibility. So one of the things, though, we know is that resolutions oftentimes don't work. How many of you have made resolutions and then they didn't work for you? Probably most of us, right? And that's because we make, I think, those resolutions based on lack, things that we feel like we're lacking in our life. And so, we continue to make those decisions. In fact, there's actually a whole day for it. I don't know if you guys know this. It's a day called Quitter's Day. Are you aware of this? It's the second Friday of every new year. The very second. And this year it's Friday, January 10th. It's the Quitter's Day because that's the day that most people stop, statistically, doing their resolutions. Quitter's Day. So what we know from that is that we want the results, but we don't want to change. We want the results, but we don't want to do the work that it takes to get there. Even though we also know statistically that the smallest of change can have the largest of effects. So how do we resolve this and how do we get together? We're going to do a little bit of work here in a minute about that. One thing that this book talks a lot about is regrets. Regrets. I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. So regrets. I know that it's very, I was going to say fashionable, that's not the right word, but I know it's very popular to say, I don't regret a thing, because if I regretted something, it wouldn't take me to where I am right now. And I agree with that. And yet, I have regrets in my life. I have regrets of the way that I've spoken to certain people or things that I've not done or done. I have regrets. And that doesn't mean that, I'm a bad person. It just means that I can learn from those things and try to do better. But this book talks about when she goes to the Midnight Library, one of the first things she gets is the Book of Regrets, and it's heavy. And what she finds is that she regrets so much of her life because so much of her life is based on things that other people choose for her or things that she didn't do. And often we dream of a life with different circumstances where we made different choices or were more successful in different ways. I bet you if we sat down one-to-one and I said, tell me about a decision that you wish you had made that you think would have altered the course of your life, most of you could pinpoint something, at least one or 1,000 things. In this book, she goes through every single one of those possible lives. All those books, or most of the books that are in this infinite library, she starts living them one by one. And so much of what she does in many of the lives she realizes were to please other people or to prove something. And I love that there's a book where a character does this, so I don't have to do this. But she goes through every one of these lives, and the librarian will say, well, what do you wish was different? And she'd say, well, I wish I'd been more successful in this career. Poof, that book comes off the shelf, and she lives that life. And then she lives this one, she lives this one, and each time she comes back to the library because she discovers that those lives that she thinks would have made her happier just made her the same. Because the circumstances of her life were changing, but the interior of her life was not. I'm not giving away a plot point, by the way. That's right, probably in the flap copy of this, but that's so valuable to know that we think that if the circumstances of our life change, and we know this because we've talked about this for years, and yet it still becomes true for us. If only something out there were different, then I would be a happier person. And in this book, she lives every single possibility of that, and it doesn't work. It does not work. Most important thing, and so one thing she discovered is that she kept trying to find lives where she didn't feel so bad, or that she didn't feel a lot of things. And so let's see, where is this? See. Every second of every day we are entering a new universe. By the way, that line alone is just mind-blowing. Every second of every day we are entering a new universe. Just let that sink in for a second. And we spend so much of our time wishing our lives were different, comparing our lives to other people and to other versions of ourselves, when really most lives contain degrees of good and degrees of bad. And then she goes on to say, there was no way of living that can immunize yourself against sadness. And that sadness is intrinsically part of the fabric of happiness. You can't have one without the other. There's no life where you can be in a state of sheer happiness all the time. And imagining there is just breeds more unhappiness in the life you're in. That's that wishing and hoping again. Why am I not happy? Why am I not happy? Why am I not? Why am I not? Why am I not? And when we do that, and that's why we make our resolutions often out of that sense of lack. Why not? And what we can learn on the spiritual path is sadness is built into the system. Anger is built into it. All of the emotions are built into them. And we know the good ones by experiencing the bad ones. We know one by its opposite. They're all there. And yet, I've seen in my time as a minister and in myself, but also just having dealt with so many people over the years, this idea of, I've done everything right. How could something like this happen to me? I'm a good person. How can this happen to me? I'm a spiritual person. I'm doing all the right things. How can I still feel this way? I'm a good person. Why did I get fired? I'm a good person. Why did this person reject me? Et cetera, et cetera. I remember a minister calling me up, this is years ago, calling me up, crying, and just so upset, and saying, and this is a minister who had taught oneness, by the way, for decades. And she was crying, she goes, I'm so mad at God, I'm so mad at God. And I said, why? She goes, because my dad died. How could God have taken my dad away from me? And I was trying to be there in her pain, but I also was thinking, there is no God out there that took, I was thinking rationally, and she was thinking in her feelings. So she was valid in thinking of her feelings. But then I said, and I was trying to console her, and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. She just kept saying, I'm so mad at God, I'm so mad at God. And finally said, well, how old was your father? She goes, he was 98. This was a surprise. So anyway, we all grieve in our own way. But it's that idea of, I'm a good person, why did this happen to me? Even something like that, which was kind of obvious that it was going to happen. I mean, if we're honest about it. But that's one thing that I've learned over the years, is that we often use spirituality not as an opening, but as insurance.
Yes.
Okay? We use spirituality as insurance. We will try everything we can to be safe, thinking that safety is the thing that's going to actually make us happy. And so we buffer. Spirituality becomes a buffer. And while I do believe that spirituality and being on the spiritual path and becoming awake and aware does help us avoid many of the pitfalls and patterns that we unconsciously have made that have caused us pain, been there, and we learn spiritually, oh, that's what's been, okay, now I can make better choices. It does not control what is outside of us. Things are still going to happen. Sorry, they are. But what spirituality does do is it gives us resources, not immunity.
Yes.
So when things happen, we're not immune to them just because we're on the spiritual path, but we do have resources available to us to help us through those very things. One of the points in this book is even the smallest, most ordinary thing that you do can be a door towards the most amazing experience you've ever had. So spirituality also gives us context, that, the experiences and emotions that we have are valid and needed because we become aware of them actually in our spiritual path. And spirituality reminds us to be grateful for all of it, the flow and the ebb, both. It's all part of the same dance, and it reminds us, spirituality reminds us to be authentic, to be who we are. That's what Brian was talking about in his power talk. Self-love, be who you are. Spirituality is a door to experience all of life, not to close us off from pain. Spirituality also is a door to live authentically, and living authentically means living fully. And to live fully, we must pursue and live our passions. Not the passions that the world thinks we should want, that's the 4 Agreements, chapter 1, but what we truly want, and want based out of the who we feel we were meant to be here, the life we want to live. That's what a life of meaning is. My life of meaning is not what Donald wants from me. My life of meaning is what I've learned to want from myself and for myself, and the values that I place for myself, that I align myself with, to then try to live up to them. And when I do that, my life has meaning. And when my life has meaning to me, you all see it. You may not like it, it may not align with your values, but you see it, and I don't even have to say a word. But I'm up here when I've got the mic, so I'm going to keep talking. Okay, so here we are at this particular time, this time for reflection. And I looked up that word reflection, by the way. Flexion means to bend, to flex, and means to do it again. So now is the time for us to bend again, to become flexible again. New Year's Eve, time for reset, renew, refresh, rejuvenate, redo, and reinvent ourselves. Here's a big one. If your habits don't change in the year 2025, it won't be a new year. It will just be the same year again. So that's where resolutions come in, is resolutions, re-solution. It is a time for us to make choices. Small ones work best. Or sweeping ones. Every once in a while, a big sweeping change is in order. But usually, statistically, small little changes end up yielding the biggest fruit. I have done many of these last Sunday of the year talks over the years. I have done so many years. So I looked up my notes for some of the other ones, and 11 years ago, I told you this story from a book called Fail Fast, Fail Often by Ryan Babineau and John Crumbles. And again, Purple's going to put that in the notes. And again, if you want me to repeat that, just come and see me afterwards. But this is the story, and listen to this story because it's really valuable. And then as soon as I'm done with this story, we're going to just do a quick little exercise, and then I'm going to read you an inspirational poem, okay? This one is about a woman named Lainey. I wonder if any of you are going to remember this story from 11 years ago. Lainey is a financial analyst employed at the corporate offices of a major life insurance company. Although she's talented at her job, for the last 5 years, she has felt bored with her work. How many of you have ever felt stuck or bored or something with something in your life, right? That's where Lainey's at. After a long day sitting in front of her computer, she often feels grumpy and impatient. In addition to having a degree in economics, Lainey has a master's degree in philosophy and is a dedicated painter. She should join our Artist Way group. She feels that she would be happier if she could find work with a more creative emphasis, preferably in a diverse and interactive environment. One day, Lainey saw a posting for a job at a local university. That's life, posting a sign. The university was seeking a financial director for a new learning initiative within the philosophy department. When Lainey first read the job posting, her heart began to race with the excitement. It was exactly what she had been looking for years, whether she knew it or not. That was the job for her. She was amazed to find that the job qualifications closely matched her background. It was almost like it had been cooked up specifically for her. She decided that she would shape up her resume and complete an application over the weekend. Okay. When Saturday came, Lainey's initial enthusiasm had waned. Now, we know this, right? You and I both teach Think and Grow Rich. No, I'm speaking to the gentleman behind you, Rev. And so we know what this is. When something comes to you, take action, right? Yeah. So, but she waited. Just one day later, she waited and her enthusiasm had waned. She tried to sit down and work on her resume, but by then she had felt unmotivated. She decided to wait another day for when she felt more energetic. Then I think you all know where this story is going. The next week at work was really hectic. Each night when Lainey came home, she thought about applying for the job, but she felt too tired. I have been there, by the way. I have delayed my good by feeling like I'm too tired to do that. She began to wonder if she was really interested in switching careers after all. It felt like a lot of work to do that. The more she thought about it, the more it began to look like a kooky idea. It had taken her years to work, after all, years to work her way up in her current position, the safety position. Yeah. And she suspected that the university job would pay less and might require even more work. She kept worrying about the job for the next 3 weeks until the posting was removed. Inaction made the decision for her. Lainey felt a little guilty for not applying, but she rationalized that since she was never 100% enthusiastic, it had probably not been a good job for her. When an opportunity arose and it came time to act, Lainey's resistance stopped her in her tracks. She felt unmotivated and unsure, so she did nothing. Most of us have experienced similar occasions when we let our negative feelings stop us from taking chances. It happens when facing big, potentially life-changing opportunities, as well as simple, day-to-day choices. For instance, you take a day off from working on your novel or painting, sculpture, jewelry design because you are feeling passionate enough that day. Or you get home from work and start to change clothes so you can go to the gym, but then you decide you're too tired, so you sit down and watch TV for the night. That's me every night. You begin dating someone new and you instantly click, but after a month you begin to feel a vague sense that things aren't right. You take this feeling as a sign that you must not be a good match, so you just call things off. Or you've been eagerly awaiting a new theater performance. The play opens during a busy month at work. You feel like you're probably too stressed out to appreciate the performance, so you just skip it. Or a friend working in Europe invites you to come visit. You are excited by the opportunity and agree to come, but then you start thinking about getting ready for the trip and the cost, and you start feeling overwhelmed. You call your friend and say, maybe next time, etc., etc., etc. Lainey lives in all of us. Lainey is relatable because we've all had that Lainey within us in some form or another. So here's the important thing, one of the takeaways for this is, the difference between existing and living, truly living, is our level of engagement in our own life. It's one of the main points of this book. The more we engage in our own lives, the more our life is engaging. Isn't it funny how that works out? So that's what true radical love is, to live in a radical way that means going beyond your inertia and getting into action. And you all know me, I'm a practical, action-oriented person, and I always have been. So I'm going to kick you into action right now. I have my wonderful assistant, this time I am looking at you, Rafi, who's going to pass out some pens and paper. Take 1 or 2 sheets of paper and a pen. And if you need more pens, you can start passing them around. And what I'm going to do first, we're going to do 2 things with this. One, I'm going to read just a few common things that people say that they want to stop doing or want to release in their lives. And when I say them, if they relate to you, if you can relate to it as something and you feel a little charge on it, just write it down on your paper. That's a thing for you. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you some questions. And I want you to just be in the flow of things. This is not meant to be difficult or where you have to think so hard and long about it. It's meant to be off the top of your head. Okay? You got your paper, your pen, everybody set? Okay, so here's some common things that oftentimes people want to release. If you have a little bit of energy about it or that you relate to it at all, just write it down, okay? Take a breath. We're going to go through this quickly. Somebody help her. Glitter gel pens.
It's the color, it's the purple.
Oh, here comes Rafi with another one. Do you need another one? Rafi's got some.
He opened it, thank you.
Okay.
We make sure it works.
I'm making sure right now. It works.
Okay.
It works? All right. Everybody set?
Yes. All right, let's go.
All right, because we're going to, once I go, I'm not stopping. We're going to go right through. Okay. Write down any of these that you would like to release in the year 2025. Excuses. Gossiping. Self-doubt. Toxic or negative habits. Fear of failure. Slow down. Yeah, it doesn't have to be good handwriting. Procrastination. Negative self-talk. Self-criticism.
Wow.
Criticizing others. Unfulfilling relationships. Drama. Trying to please others. My hand's going up on that one. Staying in your comfort zone, or status quo. Caring what other people think. Comparing yourself to others. Saying yes when you really want to say no. If anything else comes to mind, add it to the list. Those are just a few. All right. Did anybody have more than like 5? Right. We ready to release those?
Yeah.
Okay, so now just go with the flow. I'm going to ask a series of questions. You don't have to have an answer to every question. Okay? This is not a test. You're not going to be graded on this. This is just meant to be a way of radical self-awareness, of ending this year consciously, so that we can begin next year consciously. And answer off the top of your head. Don't be too deep about this now, okay? Off the top of your head. Let's see, it looks like I wrote these in I, so I'm going to say them in I, but think of them for yourself. How have I grown in the past year? Off the top of my head, how have I grown in the past year?
Are we writing this down?
Yep, you're writing it down. Just quick. You don't have to write full sentences or paragraphs. Just, you know, off the top of your head, how have I grown this past year? Next, what positive changes have occurred in my life in the past year that I'm most grateful for? What positive changes have occurred in my life in the past year that I'm most grateful for? Off the top of your head, keep breathing. Next, what are some hardships I've experienced in the past year? What comes to mind off the top of your head? Hardships. I love the sounding of the bird. Off the top of your head, what do I wish I had done differently this past year? First thing that comes to mind. First thing that comes to mind when I say, one of my absolute favorite moments from this past year was when, one of my favorite moments from this past year was when, next, what am I truly grateful for from this past year? Next, think about your life for a second right now. What 2 or 3 or 4 words, doesn't matter, what 2 or 3 or 4 words would you use to describe your life right now? Next, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate 2024? Next, what would have made that score even higher? Think of the score you just gave. What would have made it? What would have made it a higher score? Next, what would I do in 2025 if I knew I could not fail? Off the top of your head. These are not final answers. You're not going to win the $1 million at the end of this talk. Or maybe you will. Next. What limiting beliefs or fears are holding me back? Keep breathing. Off the top of your head, what is a word that might be a guide for you in 2025? Like fearless, or joy, strength, peace. What word comes to mind for you? Just write it down, no judgment.
For 2024,
For 25. All right, think about this, a few more. What am I most grateful for in my life right now? Next. When I think about self-care, what does that mean for me? What does self-care mean for me? Off the top of your head, how can I incorporate more self-care into my life over the next year? Next. Off the top of your head, what brings me true joy? True joy. All right. Now, think of this. Think of all these things. What's one thing I can do that only takes a few minutes each day to support me in my mind, body, and spirit? Next, what changes to my morning routine would help set me up for more success?
One more time, please.
What changes to my morning routine would help to set me up for more success? Off the top of your head, answer this. What do I need more of in my life? Off the top of your head, what do I need less of in my life? Off the top of your head, who is the person or the people in your life who support you the most? Just a few more. All right, this is one that we need to take a breath on. Who do I need to bless and release from my life? Who am I ready to bless and release from my life? You may or may not have answers for some of these. All right, we're coming in the home stretch. What is on my lifelong bucket list? What have you always wanted to do? What's something that comes to mind? All right, in these categories, think of one thing in each of these categories you would like to be different. For your work, what would you like to be different in your work or career? In your finances, what would you like to be different in your finances? In your home or where you live, what is one thing you'd like to be different? In your health, what is one thing you would like to be different? In your family, what is one thing you would like to be different? In your friendships and other relationships, what is one thing you would like to be different? And in your spiritual life, what is one thing you would like to be different? Now the last two questions. One, what is one or two simple actions I can begin to make that would make any of these begin to happen in my life? What are one or two simple actions I can begin to take that would start to cause change in these areas? Just off the top of your head. And finally, if you took that action or those actions, how would that make you feel? All right, take a breath. That's it. I actually had like 15 more, but time was a goer. Take a breath. Now, of course, I'm going to ask you to take one of those actions, but not tomorrow like Lainey, but today. Take one of those actions today. Take an action today, because you already know how it would make you feel if you did it. You just wrote that down. And let's hold each other accountable in consciousness. We're not going to send out an email saying, Purple, did you do that? Because if you didn't, you have to return the candy I put at the back of the table. No, just in consciousness. Let's support each other going through it, but let's hold ourselves accountable too. And you can go back and expand on this. Neil's texted me while I was talking saying people would like me to send this list out, and I'll be happy to do that, and he could send it out to our listserv, so you can have these questions to go through again. I just did them quickly because I found if you do them off the top of your head, you generally don't overthink things. You usually get a kind of a very accurate response. So let me end this talk this way with that beautiful poem by Mary Oliver called The Journey, which is so, so beautiful. So take a moment, take a breath. The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do, and you began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles, meant my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, was already late enough in a wild night in the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds. And there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. We'll just take this into treatment, saying, you just know right now that there is that thing for us. One thing that keeps coming to us, and one reason why we keep coming back to this place, is that we want to keep unfolding and opening ourselves up to that thing that is within us. It's the thing beyond our ego, it's the thing beyond who we think we are, and to who we truly are. That's where we are right now, this moment, at that true self with the capital S. And from this place we know that life is, and our job is to live it fully. So right now we open ourselves up to all possibilities. Every library in the Midnight Library of possibilities is available and open to us right here and now. And we know that even the smallest choice can lead to major life changes. So right now we just choose to live a little more open, a little more free, a little more authentically who we are. Oh, and as we breathe back into existence, we know that what no longer serves us is released, and those who are now part of this next part of our journey, we bless them on their journey as well. Because we are here to do what the poem says. Do the thing that is ours to do, to save the only life that is ours to save. We're so grateful for this. So grateful to know that we have this opportunity. We don't have to wait till January 1st to choose it again now. We choose it again and again as our truth. For this, I'm so grateful. And I release it, as Brian said earlier, over the mountains. And I release it over the sea. And I release it into the heavens, knowing that it comes back to each one of us so beautifully.
All right, so now it's time for our favorite moment of the abundance blessing. So this is the last Sunday of the year, and we welcome your year-end giving, we welcome your consistent giving, and we know that giving and receiving are one and the same. There's two sides of the same coin. And so we're just grateful to have for your presence here today, grateful for your giving that has kept us here, kept us going. And I'm going to go ahead and read the affirmation. You can join with me. I bless this gift that I give today. I give this gift from my heart, and I give it my heart. May my gift go further to heal, prosper, and bless this center and all who enter. I accept all good that comes as a result of this flow, knowing that it returns to me, multiplied abundantly and so. So I have a few announcements. Okay, we will be in person and on Zoom on next Sunday, January 5th. Our theme for January is practical spirituality. Our speaker will be Reverend Michelle, and our topic is in the beginning. So, this is very important to remember. On Sunday, January 5th, we were having an evening celebration. We are taking advantage of an opportunity to start the year in a different way. You know, Reverend Michelle is good for mixing it up. I was teasing her last week, and I was like, the chairs are going to be in a different spot. It's going to be all. So bring your friends and family together as we consciously launch our 2025. We will discuss principle and practices required to live a conscious life. We will participate in spiritual practices together. And we look forward to creating our plan for 2025. Let's have fun together creating. So we'll be here in person and on Zoom at 5 p.m. on January 5th. CSLNJ Sunday will still meet at 9 a.m. Eastern, no 10:30 a.m. celebration on that Sunday. Okay, so principle is important. Coming in January is a new class. Home's Spiritual Mastery with Reverend Dr. Michelle. A class that inspires a spiritual mastery the way Ernest Holmes shows us. 8 weeks starting Monday, January 20th through March 3rd, 7 to 9 p.m. The annual meeting for CSLNJ is January 26th, immediately following celebration. Would you like to serve more? If you would like to serve in a leadership position with CSLNJ, we would love to talk to you about it. January is the time for our annual meeting and to accept new leadership council members. If you are interested, speak with one of our leadership council members, Edna, Joe, Ty, Andy, or Ray Neal. You can also send us an email at CSLNorthJersey@gmail.com. So the North Jersey is spelled out. Okay. I believe that's it. And Neil's not here to yell something at it, so that's really it. He's always saying, "Oh, one more thing." So, yes, we'll send you a love. He's home recovering. So I hope you're feeling better and that you were not lonely. But healthy. All right, so we have one more song. Thank you all for being here.
At the Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, we believe in empowering individuals to discover their inner strength and their connection to divine life. Through our supportive community, transformative workshops, and uplifting services, we provide a safe space for personal growth and spiritual exploration. Whether you're seeking clarity, healing, or a deeper understanding of life's mysteries, our center offers practical tools and timeless wisdom to help you thrive. Join us in creating a more diverse, compassionate, and kind world. Your world, the way you want to create it.